Blessings, everyone. Thank you for joining me. And today it's my special um, honor, really, to introduce you to Father Paul Kalchik. Is that right, Father?
Well
Kalchik.
done.
Is that Polish or?
No, it was actually a fabricated, made-up name when
Uh-oh.
my ancestors fled Europe when the Germans took over. So the two
Um,
brothers had a whole bunch of gold, the family's gold, and they made up a last name and documents and got out of Europe when the
oh,
Germans took over. So yeah, they so the name is stuck with us. So my grandmother was not in her 90s before the truth of how we ended up with this
well,
Polish sounding last name, even though we're not Polish.
it does sound Polish, yeah.
Yeah.
And that I've heard that story from other people, like where a lot of times it was like maybe Polish or sometimes even Italian last names were shortened or abbreviated. So yeah, that happened.
The real last name is Cal, simply sort of a CAL or KAL.
Huh.
So just as simple, like you would hear in Latin, like Calis. I can't even talk today, but the Latin for good. It's a version
Yeah.
of good.
Okay. I got to know a father. Um, Well, I think I got to know you probably just by reading your story first, but then more recently, I've gotten to know you through Twitter, and I'm really edified by Father's um, courage and bravery to really um, stand up for the truth, especially for pre-sex abuse survivors, because I've noticed over the years that there are really very few priests that will do that publicly. Um, I guess it's a no-no, I guess. I don't know. You just don't speak out for survivors. And Father has been willing to do that. So that's meant a lot to me personally. Thank you, Father.
You're most welcome, Joseph. Myself, Twitter didn't really take off for me until Musk took it over. About a year ago now, exactly. And since Musk took it over, and my comments on Twitter as a person speaking out against the LGBTQ plus lobby, and as a priest, um, has really taken off. So,
Okay.
because when things played out bad in Chicago when I fled in the fall of 2018, even though we had people like Father Jim Martin and Father Flager in Chicago, just mentioning a couple of priests, as well as the politicians speaking out against me. You couldn't even my responses, my own responses, got nowhere because God forbid anyone speak out against this lobby.
Yeah. Father, no, no, I have a lot of followers on my YouTube channel who are Roman Catholic, so they're probably familiar with your story. But then I do have a lot of Orthodox, and interestingly enough, I do have a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, but I have a number of gay followers on my YouTube channel. Could you tell your story a little bit?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I can give you the
the the the
abbreviated
the,
version,
the Cliff Note
the
version.
Cliff Note version. Exactly. No, as a boy, I was sexually abused at 11, and then it was repeated at 19 with a Roman Catholic priest. Um, and in the aftermath of being sexually abused by a Roman Catholic priest, the my faith and the rug was literally pulled out from under my feet. My parents, very good people, 100%, you know, have always supported me and the good things that have come my way as well as the evil things. So, the long story short, in the aftermath of being sexually abused by a priest. I was a seminarian at the time. I was working at the time as a orderly in a nursing care facility, and it was as a, just
Mm.
I was a skinny guy, and it took place during the course of a night shift when nobody was working, and got uh, cornered in a locked room, and that's how it all played out evilly. But in my sexual abuse by a priest situation, it was reported that very day it happened. It was reported to Cardinal Bernardine's chancellery. The priest who abused me was verbally beaten up by my pastor, good priest, still alive in his 90s. But Father Corbo called Father Lawrence Cozy, the one priest that abused me, and ripped him a new one. So the sad story about my situation as a abuse victim is that despite it being reported the day it happened to church authorities, to and the abuser was confronted, not a damn thing happened. So the what caught up with Father Cozy was he died young, in his 50s, and it was put down officially that he died from diabetes, but I've always suspected that he died from AIDS. So because it was what it was playing out during that period of time, and he was one. Uh, Years later, I would be in a support group for sexual abuse victims, and I met up with other individuals, other men that he had abused too. So it was all corroborated.
Hmm.
In my abuse situation, the problem was my abuser, an Italian guy, Italian American guy, spoke Italian impeccably, um, was trained at the North American College in Rome, and like other North American college people, they protected one another and still do. So,
Mhm.
so, so somehow, in the course of my life, I moved beyond being sexually abused and moved beyond letting that determine what my life would be. I got after being abused by a priest, I left the seminary. It turned out to be about 11 years, and I got into the private sector working in social services, and I ended up very successfully managing uh, director for a couple dozen odd facilities for providing care for individuals with developmental disabilities. My own background was in original undergrad degrees were in psychology, so I was, God provides for us. During that period of years, I was working with taking care of individuals with developmental disabilities. You know, um, career-wise, I was in my career, I was top notch, and but personally, in my personal life, my whole life was turned inside out, upside down, after being not once but twice sexually abused. So, so as individuals who have been sexually abused in the aftermath of being raped, you have, if your only sexual experiences are homosexual, that's all you know about sex. And so, one of the paradoxical things is that
Hmm.
after having been sexually abused twice for a period of 10 years, I could not even think a sexual thought because it would bring back the trauma of being raped. So I was celibate by just sort of blanking out sex in my whole head. So it wasn't a virtue on my part in any way whatsoever, because any sexual intimacy sort of thought would just bring the trauma back to me.
Huh.
The first one, when I was an 11-year-old boy, I was picked up, and it was the first time I was ever in a car that had automatic door locks, and uh, the guy who picked me up off the street. I knew him. So it was a promise to go to anywhere but where we went. It was to McDonald's, and didn't go there, but to a locked car in a locked garage in the dark where I was worked over. And so to this day, I've only ever gotten to a car with a stranger you know less than a handful of times because
Hmm.
I just can't. It just I don't trust trust people enough to. So if I don't drive myself, I walk or use public transportation.
Father, it's really kind of scary because our stories are intersecting. I was sexually abused by a Catholic priest at age 11,
Yeah,
at same age as you, and then that went on for a while, and then he re-abused me at age 16 in an automobile. So I've also had that phobia. I have like a car phobia that's also, well, I've kind of overcome it. I've been in a lot of therapy, but that car phobia also kind of transferred into like a claustrophobia too. Fear of, enclosed, locked spaces, where you feel trapped. So
where there's for example, garages are like that for me.
mm,
Because they're dark and many have no windows and
yeah,
so yeah, no, I know the feeling. Blessedly the EMDR therapy
yeah, yeah.
has
Wow.
helped me so much to get beyond that. I'm a big fan of EMDR.
And that I have done that too, Father. Real quick, I wasn't going to go here, but since you brought it up, can you explain a little bit to people what that is, real quick? You
Yeah,
you you can do it better than me. I've been a I've been a patient of that, or a, I don't know what you call patient, but
it,
yeah.
it, it involves use of various parts of your brain. So one of the problems with individuals who have gone through a trauma of one sort or another is their body reacts to the trauma in the same way it did when the trauma happened, simply because of the mental image going through your brain. So EMDR uses a simple light board. So as the light moves from one side of the board to the other, you follow that with your motor part of your brain.
Hmm.
So and so it helps deregulate to turn off the flight response, the trauma response from a memory of a bad memory, whether it's sexual abuse or a war event or things like that. One of the big problems with individuals who have fought in a war and bomb blasts and stuff like that is they have flashbacks to it. It just takes a loud noise, a door being slammed, whatever, and they're right back in the moment. And for me, the experience of being raped in a locked car in a locked garage, it's a horrible thing, and it would haunt me for many, many years. And just you know, a a smell could
Mm.
keep it back, because the man that raped me was just his rank smell, so one of my stressors has always been people with bad body odor.
Mm. Mm.
And as a priest, that can be really, you get somebody in your confessional and they
Mm.
stink, and then it's like, so it's bringing a flashback on. So as a priest, that kind of ongoing trauma response. So EMDR helped me a lot to get way beyond that.
I agree. I hear you. I've had the same issues. Also, that so you were talking about a couple things. PTSD, but then there's also something called CPTSD, which is complex PTSD, because some people um, will will be subjected to one sort of traumatic event that's probably very brief in duration, but then there's someone like yourself and me included, and a lot of times it's the case with other clerical abuse survivors, is it the abuse can be ongoing or
Yes.
of a longer duration. So that kind of sets up people with complex PTSD, and probably people would understand like those who have panic attacks, which is something that I've had a lot. Like you're talking about being triggered by something, and that can cause a panic attack where people, um, I mean, so a lot of some people have to go to the hospital because of a panic attack because you think you're having a heart attack or you're dying or, where you just, I've had those sort of uh, things happen to me, like if I feel trapped or something, or so
So,
uh,
the trigger, you know, totally debilitates the
yeah,
trauma victim.
yeah,
Normal people, and I'm talking about like my father, and trying to explain how this was playing out, at one point in my life with him, and just not understanding how the yes, the trauma happened years ago, but the memory is as real as it ever was in your head, and it's just so debilitating. It takes all the energy out. All you want to do is just hide out in a hole, and
yeah, exactly,
exactly.
exactly, yeah, or your room or something, yeah. How when you were a little, I don't want to get too personal, Father, but feel, you know uh, you don't have to answer. How when you were 11, because I kind of have a certain profile of especially of a boy that is preyed upon. How was your relationship with, your family when you were 11 years old? It was,
Because of how that abuse played out, it was never shared with my father or
oh, yeah,
family
of
until
course.
years later. I did have a confidant, and that was the pastor of the parish. A good priest, good man, totally listened to me, and so I spilt my guts to him. And then when the worst abuse happened by a priest who totally blindsided me, that's why I was quick to go and talk to him. So he was very helpful in what do you call it, helping me go beyond that evil that played out. Because when you're that age, and you're only sexual, that was the first time I ever remember, having a sexual climax. And so it's one thing to hang out with your friends, and they're all boys, and they're your chums, and you share everything and blah blah. It's a whole different thing to, in the aftermath of being sexually abused like that, to go from being close to your friends, and then to being having thoughts of sexual intimacy, whatever, with other guys. So that, for myself, it's very very clear in my mind how before being abused there was never any thought of having sex with another guy,
Yeah,
but after being abused, that was part of my whole, what do you call it, in my stuck in my head, that
of course.
another guy can uh, get you off, and so all this talk, and oh, it's that homosexuality is just like it's a gene or something, is just so much BS, because in my
Yeah,
lived experience, I never had any same-sex attraction
yeah,
whatsoever until that happened. And then
yeah,
afterwards, it was dealing with talking with Father Corbo about that experience, and he helped me uh, get beyond that, and just clearly make the connections in my head that this was everything to do as an aftermath of the one of the results of being sexually abused.
Right. I want to talk about that with you too. Um, First of all, I'm trying to get this timeline um correct in my head. So so you were abused by this man at age 11, and then you did tell a Catholic priest about that?
Yeah, my pastor. He's
Okay.
a
And then what did he do?
oh what did he do? Because
He- Did he
I
did he tell you to tell your parents to go to the police? I mean, what did he do?
no because that wasn't and I didn't have the even the name of the individual that abused me, other than knowing that I had seen him. Anyways, it was looking back, it was handled poorly because that was just how things were done. But I
So I
brought
mean, besides Father, I'm sorry. So besides, counseling you or talking to you, that's all the priest did. That's all he did.
correct, yeah.
Whew, okay.
No, that was this is the what
Okay.
is this is back in the early 70s, so it was messed up.
I can't wrap my head around that. I mean, at the very least, that priest should have gone to your parents and
Yeah,
said, Paul was abused. I mean, to say nothing, that's I don't get it. Well, I do get it. I do get it. There seems to be a code of secrecy in the Catholic Church, and maybe priests just have a hard time breaking out of that. So I guess maybe
it,
for some priests it's just natural. It's like, okay, I heard something horrible. Let's not talk about it. So
yeah, and I think the yeah, and well, even today, the let's just put down seminary training is very deficient or non-existent.
that's it, Father. That's it. That's
Right.
it.
Myself as a priest
I,
who has been abused, I have behooved myself of dealing as best I can with this kind of crap well when it comes to my attention.
okay.
So, for example, having worked with in Chicago, setting up a mental health uh, facility with one of my
Okay.
good trusted religious sister Patty. So the frequency, especially of incest, is just unbelievable. Unbelievable
Mm,
how much this is going on. And it's exploded since porn is easily accessible, downloadable on
mm-hmm.
smartphone or laptop or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Now, so you had this trauma as a child, and then you said by 19 you were in the seminary
oh
already?
yeah, yeah. From early on as a little boy, I wanted to be a priest. So when I was 17, I joined the St. John the Baptist Franciscans, and so I got started
Oh,
working with them. And so
okay.
during summers off from university, when you're a postulant, you're only marginally connected to the order. So summers were on your own, and so one of my jobs I got into as an undergraduate was working as an orderly. So it
Right.
was easy to get a CNN certificate, and so I had that, and making good money in the summertime working. So So
Sure.
one of the jobs I had was at Villa Scalabrini, one of the large Catholic nursing homes on the northwest side of the city. And it was during the course of the 2 summers that I worked there. Toward the last day I worked there was the day I was abused by the administrator, uh,
Yeah.
Father Lawrence Cozy. And so after the abuse, I just that walked out of the facility, never to return. I did return there about 40 years later, just for the sake of being a victim, going back to that
Yeah. Didn't um now a lot of sex abuse victims, they have a lot of coping mechanisms, most of which are not healthy. I mean, people after children after going through that trauma a lot of times will, try to self-heal. Sometimes they do that through alcohol, drugs, promiscuity. That's especially the case with women, it seems like a lot of times. You already talked about how you were chaste. So
Now,
so
I had the paradoxical reaction to that in the sense of the sexual thoughts. It was better just to deny them, and
yeah.
so that was my route for many many years.
So I mean, so that was sort of your coping mechanism, sort of disassociating from.
Yeah,
I don't want to analyze you because I'm not I'm not qualified, but it seems like some people, I did that too. You kind of compartmentalize that and say, okay, well, there it is. We'll put it over there on the shelf and let's kind of move on. But you really don't. It's kind of like disassociating from
yeah. I would say my
that.
my biggest coping mechanism, if you want to call it one, is denial. I didn't really start. I'm
Yeah.
in my 60s now. I did not really start dealing with this until I was in my mid 40s.
But Father, that sorry to interrupt you, but Father, that's crucial because, and I want to talk about this too, in terms of pre-sex abuse in the Catholic Church, men do not tend to come forward until middle age.
Exactly, because it's too big of a trauma, too big of a nut to crack, too big of it. So it's easier just not to deal with it.
Exactly.
And you can easily get into that game of denial. When you have a job and work and responsibilities, and just keep going through the motion. And so that's what I did um, until gosh, the thing that brought my ball of wax all apart was in 2006 when the bad boys that run the Archdiocese of Chicago marched into Archbishop Quigley Preparatory Seminary on September the 19th in 2006 and said, "Oh, by the way, I was second in charge there. Oh, by the way, we're going to shut you down." We had millions in an endowment for the school. So in the aftermath of the Father Daniel McCormick sex, he was a really bad guy who sexually abused at least 25 individuals have come reported being abused by him. But long story short, the school had a sizable endowment because it was totally under the control of the archdiocese. The school, despite the year before being ranked one of the best 10 high schools in all the United States, was shut down in 2007 simply to take the cash at hand. So
I missed this, Father. Was this a school you were working at,
yeah,
or?
yeah, yeah. After becoming ordained a priest in 1999, one of my jobs was teaching at the high school seminary we had in
Uh-huh.
Chicago, and so taught there until it was shut down in 2007.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Um,
I was in my own life, spiritually, psychologically. I played this denial game for many years until what played out with how the
okay.
bad boys that run the archdiocese walked in and shut the school down to pay for one of their other bad boys' shenanigans. And in the aftermath of that loss, because
Oh,
I liked what I was doing, teaching. I taught sacred scripture and and
Mm.
it was a good gig for me. I you know had two that first 10 years after I got out of the seminary. I was working. I was very successful, and I gave up a good job. I was director. I had about 28 facilities I was in charge of, making good money, and I gave all of that up to become a priest. To fulfill my dream as a little kid, and as a priest, got started into teaching, and I was very happy with that. Making next to no money, but that was fine. Because
Yeah.
I come from a well-to-do family, and money has never been my thing. But
Wow.
but the loss of that job and how it played out, and uh, got me
It was a
think about
pervert.
it. It
Yeah,
brought the trauma back in a big way.
I get it, Father. Dear, let me believe me. Um, so um, when you're a boy and you had survived that trauma, did you find well, I mean, because you entered the seminary at a young age, so were you finding solace in religion during that time? So you were a religious young man.
Oh yeah, I always was.
Okay.
Both of my parents were solidly Catholic. My mother often went to daily mass.
Mm,
During the Vietnam War years, my
mm,
mother had, I want to say, five of her siblings in Vietnam at one point in time.
really?
My
Wow.
mother has had seven younger brothers. So,
Wow. Wow.
so, so we always accounted them coming back from Vietnam unscathed. Uh,
Yeah.
mostly, mostly because of mom going to church daily and praying for them, and just she
And
was always on her knees praying for them.
and dad was religious too.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
How
so
how how, how was your relationship with your father during that
oh,
time?
my father was relationship with him was always excellent and close.
Okay. Now, when you entered the seminary, um, I mean, because you had had such a traumatic event, did you have any trepidations about entering, an all male fraternity,
Oh,
fraternity?
oh,
Because, you've been, I mean, you talked about that. You'd been
the
confused and
between 19, when I was sexually abused, when I was
conflict.
with the Franciscans, and when I was 35, um, I had
Didn't you have trust issues with men? I mean, I certainly did.
no, no,
No, no. Okay.
no, because my father was I never had trust issues with men
Okay.
because of my father, and because of my pastor when I was a boy, Father Corbo, looking out for me and praying for me, and just
Okay.
being my go-to guy, as so no. But I would say, when I went back to the seminary, I had my eyes were wide open, and what I
No,
so I was fully aware of and I went back to Mundelein Seminary when it was probably at its nadir.
wow.
Michael Rose wrote, the year I was ordained was the year he published
I
his.
remember.
Yeah,
Good, good,
he's
good, Goodbye, Good Men was the title of the book. Yeah.
correct. Yeah, so long, good men, and good man. But they cleaned up Mundelein a bit. But there was one corridor we called Vaseline Alley.
Oh no. Are you
Oh
serious?
yeah, yeah, no, no, no. It because it was the how flamers are. They're quite out and open about themselves and their weirdnesses. But myself, when I went back to the seminary, it was all about being a priest, and so I spent my time. I had my own office set up in the lower level of the library, and I spent my time
Yeah.
studying and writing. And after being director for at Clearbrook for all those years, I was all about, compared to other guys sweating over exams and stuff, like this is nothing. This
Yeah.
is nothing like, writing a
Yeah.
grant application, the Department of Mental Health, are going down to Springfield
Right.
and meeting with legislators for opening up a new facilities.
Yeah.
It was all that kind of stuff I did. So it was nothing. So second time I was in the seminary, I went in with knowing full well that some guys were there not to, become holy men or good priests, but simply because they saw it as
The network.
a plush a job with perks on the side.
A lot of benefits. Um, so at 19, you were assaulted, and then by this priest, and then you left the seminary at that point. You left the religious life. And then how old were you when you went back?
36. I
Oh,
was yeah, I was
okay. So
old.
that's a long time later. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up.
So that's 17 years later.
No.
Now,
It's 19 to, well, it was a long time. Yeah, to because I turned 36 in 95 when I started at Mundelein. So yeah.
so you were okay. So what um and I'm not being critical because I was abused by a priest at 11 and then 16. And then I subsequently as well thought that I had a religious vocation. So this seems to be uh part of the story for some people. Did you ever think it, when later in life when you decided to go back to the religious life, did you think I'm going back to an institution that abused me? Did you ever think why would I want to go, why would I want to be a part of this?
Well,
Because
and that
because I mean you said it at 19 when you were abused by this priest and you'd reported it, it hadn't been handled well. So now you're going back to that institute. I don't want to say back because I'm assuming you were religious and Catholic during that time, but now you're going to be a part of that institution. Did that go through your head at all? Like,
yeah, well, definitely, and that's one of the reasons why the response to God and the response to the call to the priesthood. I took that, you know, more than a decade hiatus from. So, and during that period of time, it was keeping a far distance from from the church. It's like
you did
I
you
cut
did.
off I cut off contact with the Franciscans totally,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I would go to mass on Sunday,
Wow.
but I wasn't like yeah. So I it, when it was very what do you call it, orchestrated. I would only go to mass at uh, a church where I had respect for the priests and
Mhm.
as compared to so many of these priests that we have in the church are posers, and even back then you can the thing that I had in my favor though is and one of the reasons I was abused is that when I was a kid I was a good looking kid, oh that one there with the blue eyes, blah blah blah, how anyways. So when I went back at 35 to Mundelein Seminary, I was still one of the best looking guys in that whole group. And so I always put it past, it was easy to get into Mundelein Seminary uh, because of my looks. Fundamentally, I don't think they looked.
Well, that's not, Father. That's not
That's,
good.
no, it isn't, and that's but there's a difference between knowing what was going on. So I don't know. One of my good priest friends at the time when I went back to the seminary, psychologist, clinician. who I worked with, with the care for. Anyways, he had done his doctoral internship under me at Clearbrook when I was director there. But he said, it's one thing to live out your response to God and your vocation. It's a whole different thing to get caught up with the politics and the weirdness that's the reality of the Catholic Church today, with these gay bishops and the rest of it. Yeah, so
Well,
I'm sort of a plant in the sense of, and I was sort of surprised at how well I played that, because I doubt they would ordain me now, knowing how of a conservative bent I am, in the sense of I actually
well,
believe. Yeah,
that wasn't rooted out in the seminary because I know a lot of. I mean, I'm not Catholic anymore, so I'm a little bit disconnected. But I mean, I knew a lot of guys that entered the seminary, and part of the seminary process nowadays is rooting out conservative or rigid seminarians.
correct.
So they didn't do that with you, didn't?
No, it's one of those really sort of funny things when you think about that, because I never kept my uh, thoughts or beliefs to myself. But weird thing happened in Chicago, and looking back now, it's just so fundamentally off. But when Cardinal Bernardine died in the fall of '96, in November of '96, the rector of the seminary uh, personally, selects me. Oh, would you go to the airport O'Hare? Archbishop McCarrick is flying in. Well, would you pick him up? It's like, and so this, I had
Oh man.
so this is my repertoire. So I get to the airport,
Oh,
and
they picked you to do that
correct,
because you're a nice looking guy, Father.
exactly. There was no other reason than that.
Of
So, anyways,
course.
so yeah, so this is how they play it out.
This is an
So I get to the air. This that story gets better. So I'm at
oh,
O'Hare.
or worse, Father.
It gets worse. So I'm at O'Hare, and Archbishop Quinn is standing there, and
Hmm.
it's like, Archbishop Quinn, where's your ride? It's like, oh, I don't know. He hasn't shown up. Well, McCarrick's his flight is scheduled to land here in a few minutes. So I ended up driving both of these bad boys back into downtown Chicago. It was about it was, how it is in the evening, 45 minutes to an hour in traffic in my car. So I had, they flipped a coin to who got to ride in the front seat. So it was Quinn in the front seat and McCarrick in the back. So I drive them downtown to their hotel. And once in the hotel, I'm carrying their bags, of course, because I'm a 35-year-old guy, and they're in their 60s or whatever it was, something like that. There's a good 30 years of age difference, because McCarrick's the same age as my dad, and so 90. So yes, so this is a long time ago, but once in the hotel, they're checking in, and so McCarrick palms me $40, which back in the '90s was not bad. But so, oh, you want to come up to my room for a drink? And I said, no, thank you. I have things to do. And so I left him standing there in the lobby. But just the audacity of these men to set up a young man for failure. Here you have an archbishop palming a guy money, asking him up to his hotel room to have a drink. Like, what is that?
It's
It's just
it's prostitution, Father.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, I have to say that nothing has changed
No.
from what I've heard from seminarians.
Yes.
Not recently, but when I was Catholic, they used to write to me, and it's quite uh just disgusting. So not much
No,
has changed. And what I find, sorry to interrupt you, Father, what I find troubling is that these young men stay in these situations.
Yeah.
And they feel so determined to be a priest that they're willing to put up with this stuff. And to me, that's not a healthy situation.
No, no, as a priest and looking back at this now, it's there's a spiritual component to all of this. And so, once those sort of demons of lust and avarice and money and greed
Hmm.
get attached to it, it's a slippery slope. And so I can see how individuals succumb. Oh, here, this is an archbishop, and well, yeah, he wanted to jack me off and stuff like that, but it's all okay because blah blah blah. All these sort of weird rationalized, and I'm speaking from from my work as I've been a priest 24 years now, and work with other abuse victims and just how this all plays out.
Did
So
did and it's a footnote. It's worthy to mention it now. Is that children who are sexually abused are often much more likely to be re-abused as adults.
correct.
Yes, I think there's a cycle in the Catholic Church where there's a lot of time, there's a certain propensity for young men to be groomed and abused as boys, to be um, funneled, I guess you could say, into the religious life and then re-abused. So I'm not saying that's the case with you, but I'm saying that's the case with with some other people. No, when, gosh, so I mean, beyond that incident or including that incident, when you were in the seminary, did because I think it's different for young men who go into the seminary, although that's not typical anymore. Usually guys are going in like after they've had their degree or something. There tend to be later vocations. But uh, so I think they're more easily intimidated. So, but you went in later and you had your own life and been successful. Did you ever think in the seminary, why should I have to put up with this? Why don't I just leave? I'll go back to my own life, which, you know, and why do I have to deal with this stuff and these people? Did you ever have that thought?
Um, no,
Mm.
because my calling, purpose in life, from early on had always been to fulfill, what Christ asked me to do, which was to continue his ministry, baptizing and administering the sacraments, all that kind of stuff, from early on was, big, and my, despite the abuse, my relationship with Christ has always been, what I value the most. And so that was the thing, that drove me to give up a successful. There was no. I could not have gone higher in the agency I worked with. Director was just above me, was the executive director, Dr. Fisher, and so it was a very different. So I gave up that career to go back to what Christ called me to do, which was to continue his active ministry of proclaiming the gospel and ministering the sacraments and baptizing and that kind of stuff. So that's sort of super. It's great when you're working in a field like psychology. I loved. It's the first credentials I got were in psychology, and so I still
Mm.
look at one of the big lenses I put on things is a psychological mindset. why is so and so doing this, and that kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
even bigger than that at this point in my life is looking at things from a spiritual mindset.
Hmm.
How is this furthering a man's relationship with our Lord and Savior, or how is this behavior a hindrance to him being a son of God?
Hmm.
So that's
Hmm.
that's why when you uh, joined up with the Eastern Rite, uh, or Eastern Ortho. I don't even know exactly what church you're part of, other
I was
than
I was Father. I was baptized into a Rokor, which is the Russian Orthodox Church
okay.
outside Russia. Yeah. So blessed day for me. Never thought in a million years I would leave the Catholic Church. But the Catholic Church left me. So
Well, in like the Catholic Church, you are part of a church that has its apostolic roots, and it's all good. And so, you
well,
know,
Catholics don't believe that. They think I'm a schismatic, a heretic, an
oh,
apostate.
I read all that crap on Twitter. There's these rabid trads, not just trads, but rabid people that just are all out about beating up on other people, and they fail to understand that a good part of the world has an apostolic tradition, just like we do in the West with the Roman Catholic Church, and so yeah, that's it took me aback to see how people would beat up on you just because you wanted to move beyond this evil that
Yeah.
has been part of your
Yeah.
whole life.
Well, when you stuck up for me, Father, people came after you.
Yeah,
Like,
can you imagine?
yeah, like what kind of priest are you? How dare you? And lovely people. And I used to be a trad. I was hardcore trad, because like you said, when you had left at 19 and then you were kind of, still in the church, but you were very careful. And I was that way. I was very selective about what churches I went to, what priest, what mass. Because I understood enough that there were some really sadistic things going on in the Catholic Church. I didn't want to be a part of it, but I did kind of feel like, well, there's this little enclave that I can, make a home in. And I felt like I would be safe there until, a trad priest, was doing bad stuff too. And then I was kind of like, well, what the heck do you do? Go to the SSPX and go to the Society of St. Pius V. And I did all that stuff. And there's weird stuff going on there too. So finally I was like, well, let's become Orthodox or have my own little church. So
Which is a blessing, and
yeah.
as I said, it's sometimes all of this baggage that comes with the bad administration of the church. If you look closely at the history of the Roman Catholic Church, over the millennium, over the centuries, we've gone through some and it's just amazing that the church has survived in any sense of the word. You go back 1,000 years to the pornocracy. It's over a 300-year period. Where you had these. We had one pope fenestrated. Thrown out of a second floor window by the husband of the woman he had just slept with. It's okay. And so he was supposedly a pope. It takes your breath away, but somehow.
Fun.
The God, and His church survives. The people. Oh, but the keys um, have been entrusted to Peter. It's like, yes, they were entrusted to Peter, but the saved is a very small number compared to,
Yeah.
there's this, oh, but, you know, the sun will never set on Rome. It's like, where's that in scripture? It's just half of this stuff these people are pontificating about have no basis in sacred scripture or in the authentic magisterium of the
Yeah.
church.
Father, with your permission, can I share my screen with you?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
you have all
Uh,
your icons in the back. Oh, no, most of those people, almost all of those people are dead.
Father, what is this picture? Can
Oh,
can
that's
can you talk about this
I can
picture?
talk about this picture. Yes,
Okay.
this is the church, Resurrection Catholic Church, which was established by Cardinal Bernardine in 1991.
Right here.
Now, the pastor of this parish, who is a little guy, right behind the one of the candles on the altar. It's just a weird picture. But
Okay.
anyways, that little guy there, where you just put your little mouse, he ended up. He was a young guy, so he was made pastor of this parish when he was in his 40s, and he ended up exiting out, hooked up to a sex machine in in 1997, spring of 1997. So he, after Bernardine had died, uh, and his Cardinal Francis George was sent to Chicago to clean it up,
Mm,
he
mm,
exited out. But Cardinal Francis George, after Archbishop Quigley
mm,
Preparatory Seminary was shut, sent me to Resurrection Parish
mm.
to clean it up. Those were
Wow.
his three words: clean it up.
Wow.
Because after Father Daniel Montalbano um, exited out at 50, a couple days after his 50th birthday, hooked up to a sex machine. They don't test those things very well with USC, with the underwriters laboratories and so forth. Um, they put his death down as a heart attack. But
Oh, man.
after Montalbano was left, they put another homosexual guy in there. He ended up getting removed for abuse, and it was just Resurrection Parish up until I was sent there was a in bad state. They had to close the school because of the mismanagement of the one guy had taken money from it. It was just such a bad thing. So I literally was sent there to clean it up. And so the first week I was there, I got my young associate and we cleaned up the sacristy. The sacristy was packed with all these gay vestments for dignity masses
Mm-hmm.
were taking
Yeah.
place there. And so all of that polyester stuff was carted by myself back to the farm and burnt on our family farm, you know, didn't send it off to God and also polluting, talk about
Oh,
active
God,
sex. So
God don't want it. That all went to
exactly.
hell. That went to hell.
So the problem was the that banner that was purchased. They spent a couple of grand having that stupid banner made.
Mm,
Um,
lovely.
I had the receipt at the parish for how much it was made by a woman in Texas, all about promoting the LGBTQ plus stuff. So when that banner was made, gay flags, as we have come to know, gay flags weren't really a thing yet. So this is like one of the prototypes of promoting Christianity and the homosexual stuff. So yeah. So the Father Bema, he's the guy with the full beard here and the red hair. He just recently passed away. But if you look closely at all of the participants in that first mass at Resurrection Catholic Church, they were all bad boys and abusers or promos of sexual predation of one sort or another.
Satanic, satanic.
Well,
Mass.
Bernadine, I have, yeah, Bernadine's connections with satanic stuff is well documented at this point in time, and also
Yep.
I'm familiar with, yeah, some of Bernadine's victims. So well, one of the after fleeing Chicago with how they went after me. Oh, Father Paul burns a gay flag. Well, not really. It was a moldy banner that had been left in the back corner of the sacristy, and after we had a roof leak. It was found in August the 15th of 2018. It's like, oh, we have
Yeah.
to get rid of the it's the
Father, you were set up.
oh yeah, yeah. But by Lightfoot and
And the pushback from the secular gaze was part of the setup by the church.
yeah, yeah. So
I thought this was telling. This is the 1993 March on Washington by the it was very large. I mean, I was not there, but I was very out and gay at the time, and it was historic. And of course, NAMBLA was there, marching along. So the point of putting that there was just that, you know, there's a connection between a lot of the homosexual activist groups and their history of collaborating or at best tolerating this kind of stuff, goes way back. So, and that includes the Catholic Church,
oh
uh,
yeah.
homosexual advocacy and pedophilia, as far as I'm concerned, goes hand in hand. So,
No, all of this craziness about, here at this parish we have dignity masses and excuse me, but how is something like having a dignity mass, you know, homosexuality has been condemned by the church since its inception. Uh, the great saints of our church, many of them have written against it. Saint Paul, and then a millennium later, Saint Peter Damian, um, even Saint Jude in his forgotten about letter in the New Testament condemns homosexuality, and you can't have a church promoting on the one hand homosexuality, gay unions, dignity masses, and then the other hand being an advocate for Christ and His church and the gospel. It's
no.
they're diametrically opposed. So the problem in our church for the last 70 years has been this post infiltration, um, just gay bishops who, if not acting out on that side of the fence, um, look the other way and or promote it. So,
Yeah. And,
so
and interestingly enough, Peter Damian was pushing against
a century ago, yeah,
homosexuality
Millennium
in
Revelations,
inside the church.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, this is Holy Trinity Catholic Church, interestingly enough, is where President Biden tends to uh, go to. I hate to call it mass. Let's see. It's this is a ministry they have there for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning queer, intersex, asexual, and their families and friends. Okay. This is a Jesuit parish, but this is not at all the gaslighting I got from Catholics a lot was, well, oh, this is some sort of weird fringe parish in Washington, D.C., in New York, in San Francisco, in LA. Okay, we're adding cities here in Seattle. Well, yeah, keep adding cities. It's pervasive. This is on their website. They're not hiding it.
Well, in for example, in 2018, one of the biggest condemnations I got with none of the facts about who I am or anything was from New Ways Ministry.
Oh, lovely people. Yeah.
Just fundamentally off individuals who, on the one hand, say, "Oh, we're all about being Roman Catholic, and we believe in Jesus Christ, and blah blah blah." On the other hand, it's like everything they really talk about is about promoting homosexuality and gay sex, and it's just so false. There's no truth to any of these people.
Yeah.
Um,
Not to beat up on your church father, but the foundress of that, the co-founder, Sister Janine Gramick,
yeah,
um, was officially silenced in '99
yeah,
under JP2 and Ratzinger. But what a great thing to officially silence somebody. But there's no follow up.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely no teeth to such a thing.
So she's still running around.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. All these years, 25 years later.
Yeah, I was kind of interested in your take on this. This has been kind of a annoyance to me. Is this is sort of in the secular sphere, but a group about called Gays Against Groomers, and they've made a lot of headway in secular conservative circles, which is sort of a LGBT without the T group, so very pro-gay, but anti-trans, and they say that gender non-conforming youth will grow up to be gay. So
No,
let people be gay.
it's one of those ruses. This is fundamentally a smoke and mirror sort of game.
Yeah,
In so many respects, it's just theatrics
yeah,
because they are good for the long battle, which is in incremental, small increments, uh, misdirecting people in their thought processes and whatnot. So,
yeah,
because fundamentally the church's position has always been over the centuries that sodomy uh, is condemned and that it goes nowhere. A man laying with a man cannot have a baby, and there's no future in human sexuality, a great gift from God, being used only for one's own pleasure.
yeah,
Of all the perversions of God's gift of human sexuality, is a individual getting their jollies off by themselves and or using another person to get their jollies.
yeah,
Of all the things that I tried to teach when I was a seminary professor at the high school seminary was
yeah,
how chastity is that virtue of putting God's gift of human sexuality at the service of unconditional love,
yeah,
which is for children and for a future, and you know this so for as a celibate man who has not had sex with another person for years, doesn't even think about having sex with another person. It's just of all this time and energy spent by people talking about their sexual preferences and having sex and all, it's just like what a waste of time and of money and of everything. It's like I don't know. It's so sad to me to see how many so many people are just caught up with this lust
I agree.
on one level or another,
I
you know.
agree. So no child is born in the wrong body, but interestingly enough, some children are born gay. So according to this failed logic, so you can't be born in the wrong body, but you can be born gay. Uh, so here's one of the what do you call it? Forerunners of the whole gay rights movement, Harvey Milk, who had a penchant for young boys. Uh, Harry Hay, who is the founder of the Mattachine Society in Los Angeles, which was the first gay rights activist group in the United States, was also a NAMBLA supporter. And oh, here's our friend James Martin.
Father Kalchik's nemesis.
Yeah, so so he's the anti-Kolchak. So he here is, I don't know how to describe it. He's praising Allen Ginsberg, the famous beat poet who wrote Howl, but he was also a very early gay rights advocate. And who is Allen Ginsberg? Allen Ginsberg said, I am a member of NAMBLA because I love boys too. So here we have James Martin, the gay rights activist in the Catholic Church, not surprisingly praising a pedophile.
Yep.
Gee, who would have thunk? Father, I got a lot of insight from Randy Schultz. He wrote and the band played on. I knew him before he died. I shouldn't say I knew him. I'd met him before he died of AIDS in 1994. But one of the interesting things he said about the gay community, specifically the male, is that it's sort of destined to fail because there's no moderating role like that a woman plays in the homosexual milieu. So he was trying to explain why the AIDS crisis had so, endemically hit gay men, and he was talking about promiscuity, and I think
You know
he,
that that's what that's talking about this. Um, the reality of homosexuality in the world is all about an individual getting their jollies with another person of the same sex. And, on the one hand, they propose, they're, oh, we're all about uh, being in a marriage. And it's like, excuse me, but there is no such thing as a gay committed relationship. Yes, you have a few people, like Buttigieg that talk about it, and they put up photo ops, holding their uh, children that they adopted, which is another story. But it's just none of it. So this is all not real. They promote homosexuality as if it's gay sex is just like having pie with apple pie with ice cream. It's not. When somebody uses another person's rectum as a sexual organ, it hurts the guy on the receiving end. It's and I'm speaking from experience. And yet they talk about this kind of stuff as if it's normal, as if there's no pain involved, as if there's no negative repercussions. But all of us know, from just look at the stats for STDs. Who gets the most STDs but individuals that are promiscuous? Who are the individuals that are most promiscuous? Are these homosexual people in and out of somebody's bed daily, if not.
yeah.
So yeah, and this is. I'm not making this stuff up. This is the truth of homosexuals in the United States in the year
Oh,
2023.
I know,
Yeah,
Father.
yeah, and then you have people like Father Martin's like, oh, they've been prejudiced against over the millennium. It's like, no, they've brought the ire of society upon themselves because of how they have hurt society over time. You know, whether it's just bringing disease into the community or raping of the children or any of this other stuff.
Uh, mm, okay, I hear you. I'll push back against that a little bit later, but I hear
That's
you.
good. That's good.
Um, I was thinking about this quote in terms of the Catholic Church as well. Because I was thinking of the work of Father Richard Sipe that he had done. Somebody I really regret I didn't get to talk to. He's reposed, but you know, he made an argument that I can kind of get on board with is the part of the endemic problem within the Catholic Church is the forced celibacy. And in Orthodoxy, I'm just going to use it for an example. There is celibacy amongst the the bishops and the hierarchs and the monks, of course. But within the parish priests, it's more traditional for them to be married to a woman, of course. So at least in the parish uh, uh, environment, you know, you have a married priest, and that, you know, because of the collegial, you know, uh, uh, tradition of the Orthodox Church, so you have that insight in the church. Where often where in Catholicism that is missing. I know they've tried to force sort of like a it's and it when it's forced and it's like fabricated and engineered, where they're sort of, especially you see this with the synod right now, where they're sort of trying to push sort of women into the process and sort of, I don't know, gain some sort of feminine insight or something. I don't think it works. But you know, when this sort of naturally occurs because you have married men in the priesthood, I think you can sort of short circuit a lot of this weird sort of homosexuality within a group. Because I mean, you referred to it in the seminary where you that crude that crude but telling, you know, description of that hallway. You know, I think if you had a married priesthood, you could at least temper that.
Well, and I would say that's one of the great blessings that the Orthodox Church has to hold up to the faithful. Um, you know, if we look closely at the origin of, in the Western Church, of the mandate for all priests to be celibate, you know, it has everything to go back to the
Yeah.
12th century when it was introduced with respect to money and handling money and, you know, at the
Mm,
time, land and parishes, and, you know, so it was one of those easy fixes for a problem. So if you look closely, in the Western Church, since celibacy has been mandated for all of its priests, you know, from up above, as compared to, you know, from a man choosing that.
mm,
Um, it's, put it easily, it's been problematic. So I'm all about having good conversations with people about the value of
thank you,
clerical
Father.
celibacy. You know, and I have had these, you know, with bishops in the Orthodox Church. Um, I've visited Eastern Europe extensively, and so I've been
Wow.
to Ukraine and Poland and stuff,
Wow, Father.
and met with in with the Orthodox bishop in Białystok in Poland.
Wow, Father. That's awesome.
And it's good stuff, you know. So he talked about, as a celibate like myself, the importance of him being celibate to be a bishop of that region, blah blah blah. And so it's these are conversations that good men and women of faith need to talk about because it's to say the least, it's been checkered. You know, you have this charade of so many of our these priests in the Roman Church being acting out and not living up to their vow of chastity and whatnot, and you know whether they're uh, heterosexual, you know, either way, it's the same thing. So it's just messed up.
I agree. Oh, here's just some more of that meme that's going around. Let's dump the TQ, but the LGB is all good, you know. And reject modernity, embraced tradition. More of that. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I thought this was interesting. This is also kind of what's going around right now. Is sexual orientation is determined through genetic, immunological, endocrinological, whatever, epigenic, and hormonal interactions in the womb, and is determined before birth. So that's kind of the status quo, I guess you could say right now. So
Yeah,
if you walk up to most people, I think they would say people are born gay. And interestingly enough, this has worked into the Catholic Church as well, as we'll see. Um, I thought this is interesting. It's a study of Dutch gay men, and the Netherlands is the most gay affirmative country in the history of the world. They were the first to adopt same-sex marriage, but despite the Netherlands' reputation as a world leader with respect to gay rights, you know, gay men there continue to have high rates of mood disorders, anxiety, suicide attempts.
because of my background in psychology and the work there.
Yeah, you would know about this.
There's a lot of evidence for individuals that have same-sex attraction with other, you know, it's probably direct correlation with other mental illnesses. You know, and we're not talking about the made up ones,
Yeah.
like homophobia or transphobia. You know, there's everybody's a phobic. You know, if you disagree with somebody these
Yeah.
days, but the the real uh, mental illnesses, as you found described in the DSM, um, it's back in the 60s, you know, before the DSM was changed to write out uh, sexual deviancies I forget the text because it's been shelved for so long now. But any clinician of note who has dealt for years with mental illnesses knows that um, the correlation between having a same-sex attraction and acting upon it and the suicide rates are all direct correlations. So um, and I'm just thinking back to back when I first started my university studies in the late 70s in psychology, using behavioral modification techniques like
Mm.
adversives was all the rage in the late 70s, early 80s. So myself as a clinician, one of the first things I fought was the use of cattle prods in our. I was the manager of the first children's home for children with autism in the state of Illinois a long time ago, back in the 80s. And one of the parents insisted on using a cattle prod when their autistic son, profoundly autistic, would act out. He would get into head banging and stuff like that. So, long story short, the
Mm.
agency took to task with me behind it the the use of this cattle prod. The thing is, so this is the first time in
Mm.
my name was disparaged in the Chicago Tribune was by Royko back in the I want to say 1986, but he went along with the parents saying, oh, God forbid, this agency, the home manager would forbid the use of a kettle prod. They called it a, what do they call it? Again, they don't call it what it was, which was it was a taser, but it was fundamentally just a cattle prod that you would use to move cattle around in a stalls. So messed up. But the
Mm,
judge in Illinois found it in favor of the parents. So by court order, we were mandated to use this cattle prod in the facility when this young man would have
mm,
been. So, it was messed up. I ended up in the aftermath of that fiasco leaving that agency and going to Clearbrook, and it was a great career move on my part. So,
mm.
but
Wow.
no, with respect to
Go ahead.
human sexuality, with respect to same-sex attraction, direct correlation with other mental illnesses, and so from a psychological standpoint, so much is not being talked about, studied, reflected upon, simply because of the powers that be pushing everything LGBTQ plus because it's looked at as a good for society. Fundamentally, because two guys or two women, can't have a baby, and so it's all about the immediacy of getting one's jollies through, as compared to what's good for the individual for the long term, and or for society for the long
Mm,
term.
mm.
So,
This I also thought was interesting, Father, to show you is among same-sex married men. This is in Sweden, which is also very gay affirmative. The suicide risk was nearly threefold greater than compared to different sex married. So I'm leading to something about why I think this is an issue. Here I'm beating a dead horse here. This is mental health in England, where gay men have much higher rates of all these different psychological disorders, neurotic disorders, depressive disorders. Um, well, let's see what's going on in the Catholic.
with respect to
If you want to talk about that,
medicine and with respect to
go ahead.
psychology, um, my sister back in the 80s married a Danish man, and she's lived in Denmark, since then, and at this point in time, has grandchildren. But so over the years, I've gone back and forth to Denmark multiple times, and Europe. But the problem with countries with socialized medicine and socialized healthcare is there's not much going on there. For example, when my niece was just
Hmm.
born, my sister had to write to my mother in the United States to find a remedy that actually worked for hair lice.
Hmm.
The problem with medicine in socialized countries is there's no money in it, so these countries lose the best doctors, the best psychologists to other parts of the world where their merit is actually remunerated. You don't, like, how many world renowned uh, psychologists are in Sweden to begin with? Or for that matter, what new medical treatments have come out of a country like Denmark? Not next to nothing, because these countries push away individuals that put more into what they're doing. So it's
Yeah.
it's really messed up. So
Yeah.
yeah, so, same way with England.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
I
at this
agree.
point in time.
I thought this was interesting because I wanted to talk about, those psychological studies about mental illness and in gay men, and I kind of wanted to use that as a foundation to talk about, what the Catholic Church is doing. Um, this is a this is a project. I mean, James Martin is involved in it, but it's more far-reaching than just him. And this was this year. So this was well, this gives you a schedule of the day. I thought this was interesting. This is a conference, I guess you would call it. I think it was at Fordham, and it's interesting to me because Archbishop Wester used to be in San Francisco, so let's just leave it there. And kind of knew him when he was here. Um, and then Juan Carlos Cruz was also a speaker, and he's a member of the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors. I want to talk about him a little bit. They also had I don't know what you call it, a session or a class. I don't know what you call these things, class, symposium. I don't know. Raising LGBTQ Catholic children. So this is not fringe. This has got the participation of an archbishop here.
Yeah.
So, and somebody from the Vatican. So, not fringe. And the Catholic
The, you
Church
know,
is talking about raising gay kids.
which is just
Sick.
so awful, and it speaks to how um, hoodwinked, how far this ruse has gone with putting out there that people are born gay, but even more fundamental than that, that the only way to deal with same-sex attraction or homosexuality is by accepting it and giving a pat on the back of somebody who talks about same-sex attraction and legitimizing this weirdness. So it's hard to see how pervasive this phenomenon has become in the last 20, 30 years. Thinking back to when I went into the seminary in 95, you would never have imagined a time where you have the church itself giving a thumbs up and a high five to sexual deviancy like same-sex attraction, which from a societal standpoint goes nowhere other than bringing, you have with, I look at it very, very fundamentally in the sense of with no children, you have no future. And, same-sex attraction, an individual can get their jollies off with another person of the same sex, but it's fundamentally a pointless sort of activity because it serves no purpose other than making somebody happy for the period of time they're engaged in it. So I don't. It's so disturbing to me how you see these. It's all over the place now in the universal church. This promotion of a sexual deviancy
Yeah.
that goes nowhere and serves no purpose either spiritually or psychologically. So in it, so the thing is, we talk about the church being hierarchical structure and there being people that are responsible for the flock, but if anything, the going back a long time now, even to back when JP2 was, why did he make all these gay bishops?
Uh-huh, Mahoney.
Like, couldn't you tell?
Well, yeah.
Myself, you have a conversation with the man, you can quickly tell what what kind of bad he uses.
Well,
Really,
yeah.
so
He
why?
he didn't have much choice.
Yeah, So
First,
why have a pope if the pope can't make decisions about that are important? So yeah,
exactly, exactly. Whoa,
it's
Father.
so
Okay,
messed up.
so I want to ask you real quick because gosh, I'm going to keep you all day. But there's a bit of a because you were saying that you can't imagine that when you were in the seminary this would be promoted. But like when I was gay in the 90s, I was going to like gay Catholic weddings. So there's like, and it's kind of like the main or one of the main problems I've had with Catholicism is there's this disconnect between what's officially taught, say in the catechism or in a seminary, and then what takes place in the parish. Well, the Catholic Church does teach this, but you've got a lot of rogue priests that just do whatever the heck they want.
Yes. Yeah, and it goes way back. My one of my nemesis is in Chicago is Father Michael Flagger, and
Whoa, yeah.
and if you visit I've visited his parish. I've sat down and had lunch with him.
Ugh.
Um, he's as strange up close and personal as he is strange, from a distance. Um, and if you look closely at things that play, if you just want to, do a YouTube search of masses that go on there, everyone is different, and everyone has a new sort of, uh, uh, you know, rocks your socks. So that this is supposedly Catholic, no, but yeah.
Well,
So
it is Catholic
oh yeah,
officially. Yeah.
yeah, it is. But there's, you aptly use disconnect because you have the theology of the church. You have the sacred scripture, which is beautiful, and God's word is God's word, and you can't unwrite what has been written by God, and we're supposed to live it and take it to heart, and so that should be reflected in the life of a disciple of Christ. So yeah, so I'm pretty fundamentalist when it comes to it. So the I don't know how this disconnect between the lived church, which is so off in so many places with so many priests, is going to be reconnected with sacred scripture, reconnected with the authentic magisterium of the church, as handed down to us by the great fathers of the church and the great theologians over time. So
Hmm.
I find it so hard for people like, how can a person like Jimmy Martin do what he does when we have saints in our church like in recent times, like Padre Pio or the Curry of Ars, who spoke out against sexual promiscuity of all sorts, and gave, Curry of Ars gave people harsh penances for dancing, let alone for having sex in the bushes with somebody. So it's just bizarre.
Let's see. James Martin, SJ. I thought this was very sadistically disgusting. So this man, and my heart goes out to him for whatever happened to him as a child. He was sexually abused by a priest, and then later came out as gay. And Pope, this is a quote from Pope Francis that James Martin just gleefully retweeted. Pope Francis, quote, God made you gay, unquote. Juan Carlos, that you are gay does not matter. God made you like that. And he loves you like that. And I do not care. The Pope wants you like that. You have to be happy with who you are. So a young boy
Which
is sexually molested by a priest, is psychologically damaged by that, later comes out as gay, but don't worry about it. This was all ordained by God.
which is your term sadistic is so apt. If you look closely at Jesus's fundamental message throughout the course of all his active ministry, from beginning to end, is our Lord said, "Repent and believe in the gospel." So, for the first stage of any fallen human being on the road to a right relationship with God is repentance and conversion from your fallenness and what, however that manifests itself, to becoming, and so traditionally we've always understood that lust and I can't even say the word, licentiousness, you
Yeah.
know, it is a result.
Yeah.
Concupiscence is a result of Adam and Eve's fall in the Garden of Eden. And the good news is that because of Jesus and his successful mission, passion, death, and resurrection, all of us can repent of our fallenness, receive baptism, receive the sacraments of the church, and come back in right relationship with God. There's no need to live in darkness and in sin and in so this kind of BS by this bad priest thwarts a person's relationship with Christ. And it's
Mhm.
just, of all things that gets me on my bandwagon is this kind of crap. For example, um, I was born premature, and and I had every disease imaginable the first
Mhm.
couple of years of my life. But since high school, I've been on medication to stop hypertension with my heart, and take a
Mhm.
couple of pills so I over the course of 50 some years, I've been taking heart medication. So I don't think God made me with a heart condition. I think my heart condition, the issues I face with my health, have everything to do with this world we're in being a fallen one.
Mhm.
And we fight to, with God's grace, to be in right relationship with our God and to remedy the evils of the fallen world in which we live. This kind of stuff is simply a pat in the back for sin of one sort or another. That
Mhm.
of all issues I take with Pope Francis is his misdirection with respect to news reporters in the airplane. Oh, who am I to judge? It's like,
Mhm.
excuse me, but you're the guy in charge. You're the guy we ask for his thoughts with respect to who we are and how we live our faith. And so, yes, you are the judge. So it's a card game of
Yeah.
ruses and misdirection to
Yeah.
have us play the wrong hand.
I agree. So this is a member of the Pontifical Commission for Protecting Minors with, I can't remember this young lady's name, but she works at the White House. So this was at a GLAD meeting. And this is Juan Carlos Cruz saying, today is a great day in the USA. Thanks to all who fought for same-sex marriage to be a reality. And it's no accident that this is the pre-sex abuse survivor that they choose to be on the Pontifical Commission for Protecting Minors. They didn't ask me. Um,
They
this,
didn't ask me either, by the way. Say this, Joseph. They discriminate against all people of faith who are sex abuse victims who still really want to practice the faith.
yeah, yeah, I hear you, Father. Um, so this is a ground view of what's going on in the Catholic Church. This is here in San Francisco. This is a Jesuit priest. Not only do they have, the traditional gay flag business, but they have the new, one that incorporates all the other.
New and improved.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. So this is in a church here in San Francisco, and for new catechumens, I don't know what they call them in the Catholic Church, inquirers, whatever, they were handing out the gender unicorn. And the guy that was given this, shared it on Facebook, and even he thought it was weird. He said, "Wow, I really find this incredible. We are reviewing the pillars of human sexuality inside a Catholic Church. Where I come from, this would be seen as sacrilegious. So thank you, O most holy Redeemer, here in the Castro." So this is what's going on. And this is what's going on where it matters. This is the other problem I've had with the Catholic Church is the LGBT community tends to be, although it's more dispersed now, it tends to be, focused or localized in certain neighborhoods like the Castro or West Hollywood or Greenwich Village. And, you know,
Boys Town in Chicago.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's always a Catholic parish in that vicinity. And that Catholic parish is always gay affirming. And usually the pastor's gay.
Exactly.
So what game is the Catholic Church playing? I know you guys say that you are for this, this, and this, and this, but it's not in practice. That's the problem. So
Yeah.
the cat I hate to say, I'll say to a Catholic priest, but it becomes to the point where the catechism isn't worth the paper it's written on because
Yeah.
you're not enacting it.
Exactly. It's so why have a catechism? Uh, why have a bishop when these sorts of priests do whatever the hell they want, wherever they will, and so like Flagger, he makes up his own Eucharistic prayers when it comes to celebrating Mass. So it's like,
Oh,
so why even have a sacramentary if the guy's going to do his own thing? So it's the
you
the
you
dis so that what the praxis is so different from the actual documentation.
yep.
So
Yep.
and so how you bring them back together um, is going to be a greater miracle than uh, God parting the Red Sea for the Israelites to pass through.
That's great. I love that.
Because you have this priest, Father James Martin or Massengill, Brian Massengill,
Oh yeah.
not to discriminate against Black people, but it's like, oh, I'm gay and it's all good, and it's like, let's talk about what's all good about it. And then when you get to specifics, they just shut up. It's like, oh, you're discriminating. It's like there's not even a conversation with these people.
No, no.
It's
Father,
determined.
I've come face to face with all of them.
I praise God. Flagger's the only one of my priests I
No,
disparaged
no,
that
I've
I
never I've
actually
never
had a
been to one.
conversation with. But I've recently I read for church militant. I bought. It cost me $34 to purchase Jimmy Martin's recent book,
Ugh,
Coming
demanding.
Forth. So it's a play on Jesus commanding Lazarus to come out of his tomb. And also, it plays upon people's emotions with
Come,
the whole ritual of coming out with the homosexual community, which is their big sacrament.
come out of the closet. Yeah.
Coming out of the closet. Oh, gosh, we should give this guy $1 million because he's talking about his sexual preferences in public. It's like, who the hell cares? Really? Those kind of thoughts should be best kept to yourself. Just stay in the closet. But long story short, I read the book from beginning to end, and one of the big, I call it crazies in it, is putting out there that John is not the fourth evangelist who wrote John's gospel, but it's really Lazarus because of this and that weird scripture scholar. It's just that's a big what do you call it? Canard in it, and then the the whole play with the opening of the book and the title of it coming forth. It's just to beat up on the traditional Catholics. Oh, I just, I'm just joking with you all. Lazarus wasn't really gay, but the LGBTQ community is so persecuted in the church and blah 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 blah. It's just another. It's a waste of time and effort. So his last two books I read and wrote reviews for, and a man who is all about pushing the LGBT plus agenda and has nothing to do with the authentic practice of a man's faith or spiritual development.
No, the this yeah, I hear you, Father. This gender unicorn graphic. There's a variation of it called it's kind of scaled for even younger. It's called the gender bread person, and that graphic was actually distributed at the LA REC, the Los Angeles Religious Education Congress, where, Gomez is in charge. At that time, Barron was there. Massengale was there, of course, James Martin, a bunch of other gay priests. And I went to some of the conferences, and they were promoting very young children, like preteens, to come out. And it was really insane. It was very, very sick. Um,
As you know, that's all grooming behavior
well,
because
can I?
it gets into a kid's mind that
Yep.
anything goes and that there's no limits to who you can have sex with,
No.
and it also subverts the reason for sex to be. It's all about pleasure and about what one thinks about it as compared to what the function is. When you get a car, check out the power drive, how much torque it has, how many
Yeah.
horsepower, what, and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Um, and that's all good because you know what kind of car you're getting because of checking out the things that are under the hood. Um, so they're making sex about everything what it is not. So a male sex has this function, reproductive wise, in the it's this it's so yeah, so we're gonna sell cars without talking about horsepower or what kind of fuel they use, whether it's 89 octane or 93, and all that kind of stuff. And so
Yeah.
it's fundamentally uh, what do you call it's gaslighting in a weird sort of way. It's grooming behavior. It's just
I
they,
agree.
they want a whole new generation of individuals that base their lives not upon family or faith or country, but about how they feel about sex and you know, I don't know.
That,
It's just weirdness.
yeah, at one of these conferences, this was a Catholic priest. They were encouraging, priests, nuns, teachers, parents to identify vulnerable children, to gain their trust, and then to confirm an LGBTQ identity. So that's what they were doing. And that's how the perpetuation of abuse is continuing in the Catholic Church, because
No, I would agree with you 100%.
it's officially propagated. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. This is not happening by accident, but by design.
mhm.
If I was a person in charge, individuals like Father Martin and Massengale would be given the short shrift and kept as far away from any child as possible because it's leading to the loss of faith of the child, but also
Well, the bishops play dumb, because I was confronting Gomez and Barron at the time, and are very good at playing dumb.
yeah.
Like, oh, I don't know. I didn't know that. Oh my gosh. Oh, really? They said that? Oh, wow. Wow.
But I've never met Gomez, but Bob Barron, he's a year, half a year older than me. I know well from the time spent together at Mundelein Seminary. By the way, he gave me a B on one of my papers. It was on Teilhard de Chardin, and Bobby Barron, who doesn't have any background in university level in the sciences, cannot understand Teilhard de Chardin and the charlatan that he was, because you know he's never had advanced chemistry or physics or university level. So, but that being said, Bob Barron is from Chicago. Bob Barron,
I know that.
his stepped up to the plate under Cardinal Bernardine. Um, he is fundamentally one of those guys that came through the system under Bernardine, and just look at the list of people he was ordained with who have
Gregory.
fallen by the by. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I won't. I'm not going to ask you for opinion on any of these people because it's not my business. But you know, through my interactions with them, I don't have a good opinion of Bishop Barron. So let's just
Yeah.
leave it there. Um, this is again a parish in San Francisco celebrating Pride, where they have Pride masses, and Corleone is kind of, and I'm not going to ask your again your opinion on any of these people, but I can say because I'm not a cleric and I'm not Catholic, but Corleone I've had a lot of dealings with. He knows he's good. Again, he's good at playing dumb. He knows about the gay, you know, conclave in his archdiocese, and he does absolutely nothing. So don't bishops don't want to be asked to do anything. So don't ask them to do anything.
It's pathetic. You know, and we just replace the issue here. Let's talk about the pro-life issue and fighting against abortion and sex trafficking and the rest. Um, it's the same way. You know, sex trafficking is one of the biggest issues on the board in the United States. We're talking about thousands of individuals
Yeah.
within any given U.S. city right now being sex trafficked. We had a poor girl, a
Oh.
16-year-old pretty girl, that was her only mistake, that just disappeared from a Saturday afternoon to Sunday morning, and never, ever, ever found out whatever happened to her. So, you know, between the Chicago police and her family, she just disappeared, and to this day, nobody has heard hide nor hair of her. So, and this is the reality going on in our cities and in our United States, and
The Catholic Church is
just look the other way.
the
Yeah,
Catholic Church is sex trafficking children across the
yeah,
southern border right now.
yeah.
So this is a absolutely crazy priest, but this is kind of the end result of all of this. This is where it goes, and he's a priest in good standing in the Archdiocese of New York, and I've confronted Dolan about what's going on, and he's another one that plays dumb. But this priest, I'm not going to read what he said, but this is what he says. He says that gay men are suited to certain things because of what they do. So this is the sick stuff that the Catholic Church is um, permitting to be, you know, spoken. So
There is nothing more threatening to a male than to be receptive. Hmm. Just this is a loose cannon who yeah, just a matter of time before this guy self implodes, because there's no logic or thought behind that.
well, he's protected by the Catholic Church. Protected. I don't know what he does. I don't know him, but he's certainly protected. So I wanted to show you this. This is kind of, I guess, what I'm going to kind of end it on. This is research that I did, Father. This is on my website. So I was seeing a pair. I first saw it actually when I was gay in San Francisco and just talking with friends. And there seemed to be a common strain in our stories, which was childhood sexual abuse, although it oftentimes wasn't described in those terms. a lot of times it was explained or within like telling a story of childhood, it was told in terms of, well, I had an experience with this man when I was young, and it was sort of a turning point in my life where either I understood that I was gay, or this man helped me to, you know, come to terms with who I am or who I was born that way. I mean, a good example is like George Takei, who was Sulu in Star Trek, and he described how at a young age in the Boy Scouts, he was molested by an older scout, he didn't describe it that way. Sometimes gay men describe these incidences as sort of, a coming out, or like I described earlier, as something that helped them. But and I went through,
And
I
that's what, yeah, oops.
No, 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 Father, but real quick. And then I want to hear what you have to say, because I think it's kind of what we've been talking about the whole time. Is it, I wanted to know, was there any scientific studies or research that backed up this sort of assumption that I had through anecdotes, that there's a higher percentage of gay men who were same-sex abused as children? And there's a ton of evidence. It looks like a majority of gay men were same-sex molested. And one researcher actually went as far as to see, well, how many heterosexual men were same-sex molested. And I'll say only 7%. That's a lot. But 50% compared to 7, there's a strong correlation. People will argue whether it's causation, but I think it's causation as well, is that these young men were sexually abused. And that is what later caused the same-sex attraction. And it's disturbing what's going on in the Catholic Church, because here you have an organization with a high number of same-sex abuse. 80% of the children abused were male. And then also you have, at the same time, in the wake of the abuse becoming public, you have this push to normalize homosexuality, to say that people are born that way, to say that God made you that way. So I think they're interconnected. And a lot of times these young boys are funneled into the priesthood, where they're able to be re-abused, blackmailed, controlled, and this perpetuates itself. Sorry, Father.
No, no, no. You're right on the money. The you know Richard Sipes, who you mentioned earlier, was as a clinician all about talking about this stuff and using the correct terms psychologically, as a clinician, about how this is all played out tragically in the Catholic Church and continues to perpetuate itself. So the that study, that'd be something I would like to look at and closely read. So you can send it to my
I will,
email
Father.
address.
I will,
And
Father.
that, but despite all the talk in my lifetime about stopping sexual abuse in the church, stopping this, that, or the next thing, it's all talk. There's very few individuals who are really doing much more than talking about stopping the sexual predation of youth, and nor is there any real understanding of what grooming is and how it plays out. So, as you've shown in these slideshow, the grooming is a big thing is what's happening with all of these people promoting to the youth that gayness is okay. So, so one of the things that sort of reveals the lie is that if gays did not push homosexuality down the throats of society, um, it would go away. So it's this is all a slick propaganda machine right now, and God forbid anybody sort of push back against their propaganda. So that's with the burning of Father Montalbano's banner, 5 years ago, exactly.
Oh,
God forbid anybody, oh, he burnt our banner. It's like, well, no, I didn't. Actually, it was the Mexican Guadalupanos that took it upon themselves to destroy it. It's like, I wasn't going to stop them. It's like, yeah, it needs to be destroyed. You can go for it. Uh, and that's how it happened. But
you were set up, Father, and the church used the secular LGBT activists to go after you.
oh yeah, yeah,
Don't you think I have to say the majority of the vitriol that I've received is not from secular gays, but it's from people in the church?
yeah.
Because I have to say for most of that community, which I used to be a part of, they don't really care that much about what goes on in the Catholic Church unless they're personally invested in it and they're like New Ways Ministry people or Dignity people or those sort of like very small kind of group that for whatever reason is feels attached to the Catholic Church and they're pushing for all this stuff, gay marriage and stuff. But for the most part, the wider like Catholic Church doesn't really, I mean, the wider sort of secular gays don't really care. It's a lot of times it's Catholics because when you start digging down into this stuff, when you start digging down into the pre-sex abuse and why this stuff is tolerated and certain priests, and then you get into certain bishops, and I think a lot of Catholics become very defensive because they feel like you're chipping away at something that is very precious to them. And you're not, and I was doing this when I was Catholic, and I wasn't necessarily trying to topple the church, but I was just trying to get down to why, where's the rot? What's the source of all this? And people are not supportive. They're not. Catholics aren't. If you remain very surface, like James Martin is low hanging fruit, sorry the pun, but they're okay with that. But if you start digging deeper, then they don't like it.
No, I would agree with you 100%. In large part because with so many Catholics, they have a very poor understanding of human sexuality. And there's it's one of the issues out there. How many people, how many homilies have you ever heard about chastity and the virtue of chastity and why it's important spiritually? Anyways, that was one of my big things when I was teaching high school, and it's like you expect me as a priest to condemn sex or whatever. It's like, no, I'm not about that. I'm all about how sex is one of those great gifts from God that we need to use good, well, or poorly. And so sadly, lots of people use sex poorly and blah blah blah. And just going from there. And we had so many good conversations. Especially with the sophomores when they're just starting to go through puberty and experiencing sex as compared to some sort of idea out there, like a man marries a woman and they have children to real stuff. So it was all good, but we have great role models in the church who have talked about it. Whether it's Augustine and his Confessions, and uh, there's lots of stuff in the church, but it's in this day and age, the wisdom of the fathers of the church is not talked about. Like how many priests do have read St. Peter Damian in his condemnation, which goes on for a good 100 pages against
Very few.
homosexuality. And if you get into it, he's right on the money, and without having a psychological degree like I do, and or working in the field, just an astute uh, understanding of human psychology, let alone the spiritual development of a man. So it's good stuff.
I've kept you too long. My last question for you, Father. Despite, everything that you've been through and everything you've seen specifically in the Catholic Church, why do you stay in the church, and how do you do it?
Because I'm in the church because of my relationship with Christ and because what he has asked me to do. And, at 35, when I left or I was almost 36, my birthday's in September. So it was really 36 when I entered the seminary in September of
Oh,
1995,
oh,
a long time ago. But I gave up my job and money and all that stuff for the sake of doing what I believe God called me to do, which is bring people back in right relationship with his son, Jesus Christ, and to baptize them. And, so one of the reasons I think all the ire fell on me in the fall of 2018 is just simply how much great work we were doing at Resurrection Parish. For example, in the spring of April of 2018, we had 77 young people for the sacrament of confirmation. We
mm,
had a like number for first communions that year. About 18 weddings we had at the parish.
wow.
We had a couple hundred baptisms.
Wow.
We had one of the highest, what's called in the church, status enamorum rates, meaning the number of sacraments administered
Wow.
was phenomenal. And so, for example, one Sunday in August, I want to say it was just so the beginning of August, I had myself 18 baptisms on a Sunday. We had baptisms at the Spanish Mass, we had baptisms at the English Mass, and then we had separate baptism session for English. So we had four, so 18
A
myself.
lot.
That's why the devil hates me, because all that good work we were doing there at Resurrection Parish was brought to a halting stop,
Yes.
simply because the gay community in Lori Lightfoot, Mayor Wannabe at the time, oh, this guy's a hater. Um, just she's never met me. I've never met her. I don't want to meet her, but can you imagine weighing in on a man who had been pastor for a parish for 13 years?
Yeah.
You know, just the audacity of these people.
Yeah. Real quick, Father. Let's see. I know. I still think that the church had set you up, but I mean they have certainly protected Flager over the years. So
Oh, yeah.
I think they are very careful on who they choose to fall and who they choose to protect. So
Yeah, there's a lot behind that. So that'll have to be another podcast.
okay. Thank you, Father. I hope we could do this again someday.
Oh no, definitely, Joseph.
Okay.
You've since you um, embraced your faith 100% and put behind the issues that
Mhm.
presented themselves when you were
Mhm.
Catholic. I've always supported you in that,
Thank you.
and even taken a little heat, but
You
it's
have.
it's just bizarre. I can't understand people beating up on a man who is sincerely striving to be closer to God.
Well, it's also because they kind of feel like a lot of Catholics feel like if you leave, just shut up, or if you've been sexually abused in the Catholic Church, there's two paths for a survivor. You either stay in the church and you support the church, and I did that for a while, or you tell the truth. And what can you do? It's hard. It's hard.
But
So
and we're talking about things that
I don't know. You Father.
nobody's talking about because nobody's talking about being born gay. It's just presumed. On the other hand, they're doing all this work of promoting it and grooming young people to be gay. So it's these are topics which are forbidden for the most part in our current society and political
Yeah.
because the and I look at it as a priest from a spiritual perspective. The devil's all about promoting homosexuality because he not being he hates human beings because God came into the world as a human being in Jesus Christ, and so that's why he is all about abortion and homosexuality and people getting caught up in lust of various sorts because he wants to end the human race, and so two men can't have a baby, and it's as simple as that. He'd rather have two guys get caught up with sex among themselves as compared to fornicating and having babies on the side.
I agree. I agree. Thank you, Father, again.
Thank you, Joseph, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
What are the two icons behind you above your head? Relics, I should say.
Oh, Saint Joseph. So,
I have a St. Joseph, first
yeah,
class St. Joseph.
actually, there were some Catholic priests who were very kind to me and gave me these. Of course, they're not first class relics because there are none of Joseph. So they're cloak of Joseph, and
Yeah, that's what I have.
yeah, I treasure them.
The burial shroud sort of thing.
Yeah, and I kept my as a Orthodox. I don't know, maybe this is peculiar to Russian Orthodoxy, but you're given, a name. I guess if your name is like Tad or something, I don't know. But my name was Joseph, my birth name, so I kept my name in Orthodoxy as Joseph. So
But that's why I always go by my following my mother's lead when I was a child, because my given name is Paul, but my baptismal name is John. So
yeah,
and so as an adult,
that's
well, as a kid, I was referred to as PJ, and so that
oh
continues. So I'm by many people just simply referred to as Father PJ.
oh oh. I hope you're well, Father, and
But yeah,
I hope things work out for you well in the Catholic Church.
but
Unfortunately, I've
I I have I you know years ago, I was referred to as a white martyr, whatever that means. But because I have some blood in the game against pushing back against the LGBTQ plus. But of all things, I believe God has put me here in the fight for the long haul. So I will keep fighting and try to be as faithful as I can to my vows. I'm one of the few priests that you see wearing
oh
wearing.
oh
So
wow.
so it's all good.
Well, I couldn't stay, Father, but I'm glad that there are people because my whole family's Catholic. So I'm glad there are people in the church that are still there that are good. So
Yeah. So one personal question: how is your family at this juncture in time supportive of you in this move of yours?
they're okay with it. I don't think
Good.
they weren't happy that I left the Catholic Church, but because I'm Italian Catholic, so that is just ingrained in, we go back
Because
Catholic.
because Italy is Catholic and there's no such thing as an Orthodox Italian.
So
Not really.
yeah, I don't think it's kind of odd. So
It's not like traveling in Eastern Europe between, well, here's the Orthodox Church and here's the Catholic Church, and you can compare their steep. Oh, they're going to tell because of the so yeah.
it's but in America here, the Orthodox Church is not that sort of ethnic enclave that it used to be. It's even among the Russian Orthodox, it's a church of converts. And a lot of people from Protestantism and a lot of people from the Roman Catholic
Yeah.
Church. a lot, and I think it's going to be a lot more. I think they need to prepare for that,
Exactly.
depending on what happens. I'll let you go, Father, because
Okay.
I'll talk to you. Let me stop recording.